Welcome back to the Weekday Saints Podcast, where we tell stories of how God is working all over our city as we try to have eyes to see His faithfulness in the vocations happening all around us. We're really excited this week to have Chuck Bateman with us. He's an auto mechanic in town who has a heart for serving others. And the way he does it with honesty and integrity is something that actually gives him an opportunity to talk about Jesus with others. Really excited for you to hear this humble man talk about his heart and the way he's serving people by fixing their cars. Well, welcome back for another episode of Weekday Saints Podcast. We're so glad to have you with us. My name is Jonathan Ingram. I'm the co-host along with my other co-host here, LaQuisha Ewing.
Hey.
And we are so glad to have Chuck Bateman with us here today. Chuck, thanks for making time to join us and share a little bit about your story with us.
No problem.
So Chuck, we're going to jump right into it. Who is Chuck Bateman? Are you from Chattanooga? Are you from somewhere else? Tell us about where you grew up and your family background.
I did grow up in Chattanooga, but I'm originally from North Carolina. My parents moved down here when I was 2 to go to Tennessee Temple. And I've lived down here my whole life. So grew up right down here on Union Avenue, and we live in Ringgold.
Okay, awesome. Any you said we, so family, any wife and kids?
I've got my wife, of course, and I've got 2 children, a daughter and a son, and I've got 1 granddaughter, 1 grandson on the way.
Congratulations.
You say grand, you get a different look on your face.
Yeah.
It's different. It is different. They're fine.
What do they call you? Do they call you Granddad?
Papa.
Okay, I like that. That's good. So what are you currently doing for work? What industry are you working in?
I have a small auto repair business on Main Street.
And it's Quality Auto and Battery, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the name of it? That's awesome.
We sell a few cars and we work on them
and full disclosure, he works on my car and keeps me on the road and keeps me moving. Well, Chuck, have you always been working in the auto industry?
No, I haven't. I've always liked cars, but been a mechanic most of my life. Worked at a food place doing food, and so I was a mechanic on one of the lines there.
Cool.
So
Sounds like a man of systems.
Yes.
You know, I heard someone say that anybody who focuses on systems has a heart for God's word, because God's all about structure. So if you understand structure, you might be in a good vein with some good lineage there, Chuck.
So Chuck, have you been a Christian your whole life, or when did you get to know Jesus?
I came to know the Lord when I was 6 and rededicated my life to make sure everything was correct when I was 12 or 13. Maybe kind of a common coming out of a Christian family, but yes, I've known the Lord ever since I grew up in a Christian home, and have always been in church, and it's just been a part of our life, and thank goodness I am really thankful for that part.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'd love to hear, you mentioned what you were doing before being an auto mechanic, and just can you talk a little bit about what you learned working on a different type of systems line and what you learned through that type of work?
I've always had a little problem with doing something that doesn't mean much, and so when I worked and I just worked in the food part, I saw little cakes going down the line all the time, but it never was. I said, Lord, what's the meaning of this? How is that benefiting you? Because my understanding from the Word, I'm supposed to be glorifying you in whatever I do. And so I never was, to me, ever called for a certain specific thing to do. And so I had a problem with that for a little while until I really understood that it wasn't the job you're doing as much as what it was, who you were doing it for. And so once I learned that, I had fun on the assembly line or working or doing the maintenance and stuff. And the same thing with cars. Anything that you do gets old, but it's your outlook and it's what you do to glorify the Lord.
That's awesome. So talk about being an auto mechanic. What do you love about it? What's something that gets you going every day?
It's like anything else to a degree. It has its ups and its downs. The best part of it is when you actually get to fix something and it works and everybody's happy. That's the fun part. We come in contact with things we can't fix, and we that's a hard one. But at the same time, it still boils back down to who I'm working for. and that I'm glorifying God, and that I'm helping people. And I think that boils down to what we're supposed to be doing to a point is God put us here to be able to help people. And I've found a lot of different ways that I've helped people just through their car situation other than, and it ends up allowing me to be able to talk about the Lord too.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah, sometimes you run up against those challenges beyond cars, right? That you just don't have the solution. So can you talk to me about that when you do face those moments where like someone's brought you something and you've exhausted every possibility? Talk to me about like your process of even communicating to the people that you did your best, but you have no solution. What does that look like?
A lot of people come in, and it was just like me. If I went to a different business that I basically know nothing about, it helps me when they explain things to me and educate me a little bit on what the process is. Most people have to trust somebody with whatever they go do, cars or whatever. And so if I can explain to them, show them a little bit about what I'm talking about and show them why this happens this way, then it also shows them that sometimes I'm not capable, or my shop's not capable of fixing this specific problem, but I will lead them in the right direction. I know other shops that can do these things. And so I send a lot of other shops a lot of business because I'm not a huge shop. And so we help any way we can. And a lot of shops do a diagnostic fee of charging you to tell you what's wrong with your car and stuff. And I've never liked that because most of the time they can tell what's wrong with your car in 4 or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And so we don't charge for that. And so there's many people that come in that I tell them what's wrong with their car and they go away and I don't get anything. But I don't have to worry about that because the Lord takes care of me. So I'm not after their money. Of course, I want to make money, but at the same time, He provides for me. And so therefore, I get to tell a lot of people, or they come in and they have a big price from someplace else and we do it for much, much less because maybe the overhead or they've told them wrong or something. So
there are a couple things that kind of stood out in that. So your field gets a bad rap in the world, right? And so to hear like such a godly heart and a godly posture because mechanics is as a woman, I know I get told all the time. My husband tells me all the time. Make sure that they give you a printout of what it is that they're saying so we can go and double check because they're just,
get another price. That's right.
And I think about that, like it does my heart good to know that in that field, in this city, that there's somebody with integrity. That's, I don't care what the industry is, but mechanics tend to get a bad rep when it comes to integrity. But the other thing that kind of stood out for me was your willingness to share. If I don't have what you need, I'm not going to just send you away. I'm going to think through what I do have access to. And that might be another shop. That may be someone else. It sounds to me like churches. It does. It's like there's no one size fits all ministry in Chattanooga. There's 1,300, I think, churches in Chattanooga. And so there's a reason for that, that you may be able to be better served somewhere else. That to me is a very, very godly heart, not forsaking a person just because you couldn't give them what they needed. So,
Chuck, I've seen it firsthand coming in the shop. Sometimes it's you talking with me, but sometimes I'm waiting for my turn and I get a chance to watch you talk with other people. And one of the things I've noticed is when you have a problem with your car, there's usually other problems that are in your life, and I'm sure you get to hear about people's lives in really intimate ways. How does your view of God and your view of who people are, you said like loving people is a big thing, how does that shape making the time for that? Because that, oftentimes those stories have nothing to do with you fixing their car and making time for that space.
No, I guess one of the things that I like the most is just to be able to talk with people. I've always liked talking with people. My guys that work for me or work with me, they get on to me sometimes, tell me I'm talking too much. But I found out that is why a lot of people do come back, is because that they have a chance to talk or hear it out, or I pray for them. We've stood many times and just prayed with the customer. And we start out our day each day with a word of prayer. and give it all to God, because it's His, it's not mine. And
Yeah. I just want to follow up on that. Speaking of your coworkers and the people that work for you, one of the things I told you before we started filming today is just how I've seen you really care for the people that work for you. And I've also seen guys that work for you that are not working at that time or back in town that are coming to hang out at the shop.
Yep.
And I think there's something about who you are that's attracting people there. Even on the days I don't always hear you talking about explicitly about God, but something that I can just see, you see them as a full person.
Well, don't ever let somebody think that I'm a good person. I try to be, but it's not got to do with me. It's God.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sitting here saying that I'm good. Come see me. I'm good. That's not what it is. It's just because that God has blessed me, and I know Him, and because I know Him, I don't worry about a whole lot of stuff. It's just He's got it.
Amen. That's good.
What if you could broadcast a 30-second spot, right, about your work? What do you want people to know about your work that maybe they don't know about the work that you do?
Well, I try to be honest, and I don't have to have your money. Of course, we want it, but at the same time, I'll help you. I'll try to help anybody that comes in the door. But we're just ordinary people that love the Lord and want to help people that are hurting. And we do in a lot of different ways. Can't help you every time, but I will do my best to lead you in the right way.
Chuck and I got to know each other well because I had a car that needed a lot of help. And the thing that was always so great about it is I knew when I came in, and Chuck was going to shoot me straight. One, what he could do, what he couldn't do. And two, was going to help me try to make it better. And that's just something I really appreciate about who you are. Is there a verse or anything, biblical truth that drives you in your work? That's, we're talking, I know it's not about you, but there is a why for why you are the way you are, and how God's working through you. It's the Lord doing the work through you. But is there a scriptural passage or a truth from the Bible that kind of drives you in the work you're called to do?
Well, I have quite a few, but the one that my business I try to go back to each time is Proverbs 11:1, where it talks about a improper or a bad weight, and that's how they did it in the Old Testament times or whatever, is abomination to the Lord. But a just weight, He loves a person that does his weights justly. So I try to run my business the same way that the Lord would honor the Lord. So I tell people the truth. I tell people when they come in and they have people have told them they've got a bad battery and there's nothing wrong with their battery, I tell them there's nothing wrong with it, and I show them on the machine. I let them know, because I don't have to have that specific amount of money from them. I'm not there to get them. I'm there to help them. And so most of the time, the people that I help, they get to come back and see me when they need something. And so the Lord just lets me know that He's in control. And but that verse has always meant a lot to me, because if I'm honest, doesn't mean I can win every time, but if I'm honest, then the Lord is the one that blesses me, and it's not necessarily the person that comes in with the work.
That's good. That's good.
It sounds like the secondary blessing for you is in the form of the relationships, though. So, some people tend to think of blessings as money, but the blessing being able to provide a service to the community and then build a community around your shop where you can share the gospel, that's very rare.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing.
One of the things I find fascinating too about that kind of goes along that vein is I remember one time I was trying to schedule a time to bring my car in, and you said, well, we'll be closed that week. And the reason I say that is your priority work is very important to you, and you take a lot of pride in it and see it as a way to serve the Lord. But there's other things that are really important to you, and you were shutting down to go on a mission trip. Something you do every year, is that right?
We try to do it at least once a year.
Why is that an important thing for you?
Well, it goes back to getting to help someone that possibly needs something. And I've been blessed. I've been blessed by the Lord to be able to do some of these things, and then I get to see his nature. I get to see different parts of the world, get to see how people that aren't as fortunate as I am to be able to, see them and see how they're living. And the best thing is when you get to tell someone about the Lord.
Yeah.
And that's because we're all going to be in the same place one day, the people that know the Lord anyway.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome. Well, Chuck, I am so thankful you made time. I know you're busy to come and let us talk to you, hear a little bit about your heart and your why and what drives you. I'm personally blessed by your work, and I would say your ministry, fixing cars. I think one of the things I love about the gospel story is it's the Lord takes us and makes us new and makes us work the way we were supposed to. And in a lot of ways, you get to do that to these vehicles that helps people do what they're called to do. And I don't know about you, but I need my car to do what God's called me to do. And so the service you provide is so needed. And if you're driving down Main Street, just know you're going by an amazing man doing work to honor and glorify God by fixing cars. So Chuck, thank you for making time to be with us today.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate you
Nice
guys.
to